I want to start off by giving a shout out to my friends at CryptoKitties, and I'm going to be working with them in the future, working on something called GeoZNot, which is really a fun CryptoKitties-like gamified project. It's our science and gaming Dano for FOUNDUPS. But what I want to talk about today is actually the Book of Do. The Book of Do. So there is this amazing website called Scent.co. Scent.co. Now, the way you're going to get Scent.co is you're going to download the Coinbase wallet. Coinbase wallet. Just go to, if you're on whatever iPhone, go to your app store, play Google, right, and download Coinbase wallet. In Coinbase wallet, you're going to see Scent, and it's got little dots on it. Why am I telling you this? Well, because I am giving away $500 worth of Ethereum for folks to collaborate in writing this story. And I'm going to tell you the Book of Do. Sorry, the Book of Un. And then there's the Book of UnDaoDu. The Book of Un, the Book of Dao, and the Book of Do. So the Book of Un is a story of basically a prehistoric John Wick, right? His name's UnDaoDu, and it's the story of his origin and how he became who he was. And I plan for this to be a movie, right? UnDaoDu is also the guy in the center of the Mayan calendar. UnDaoDu is a guy called Gilgamesh. Those are stories of UnDaoDu, right? They called him Gilgamesh, just the name in Babylonian, but his real name was UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu is, is this amazing guy, right? He is the first Buddha, the first enlightened being on our planet. And he's like a warrior monk, right? So the way I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you kind of the story and how it all ties in on the Book of the Un. And anyone will be able to write the Book of the Un. They can post it, link it. It has to be, it's Creative Commons license, non-derivative, meaning it's based on my work, and that ultimately I am paying the Ethereum to basically have you write it for me, but ultimately I retain all rights to it. So anyone who gets accepted will be credited in as a share of the work to determined by me in the future. All the monies, I'll tell you right now, isn't going to go to me. It's going to go to the DAO, the Dano, right? The Dano is a decentralized autonomous non-profit organization. So all of the funds that we generate from this work of mine, okay, will go into this Dano, decentralized autonomous non-profit organization, that ultimately every person who participates in the development of this Dano, okay, is a stakeholder, which means you have a vote. There's going to be a whole paper on Scent about it. I'm going to do the white paper and share it on Scent, and people will be able to participate. So I'm going to be using Scent to basically develop my work of FOUNDUPS here on out. But let's talk about the Book of the Un, UnDaoDu, the story of his origin and how he came about. So UnDaoDu is a prophetic person who ushered in the third age of man. The book starts in this Lord of the Flies battle scene of 6 years old. They're all 6 years old. They're all exactly the same age. They're all born on the same day. They're all conceived, or pretty much the same. Well, they were all conceived on the same night. Okay, and on this, it was the ritual of the black moon, right? Which means the lunar eclipse. So on the lunar eclipse, there is this black moon, right? And it becomes this huge orgy of these 3 tribes run by 3 sisters. I'm giving a little backstory here, right? So I don't know the names. I'm going to let folks to be creative, but they have to tie into history. So the names of the 3 sisters. This province, this area where this story takes place in Somalia, right? On the island of Somalia. There's an island out there. It's where the oldest DNA based on the journey of man was discovered. I mean, it's right off so you'll see it. Watch the journey of man for context on that. That's where the Dark Africa. That's voodoo. That's the oldest sister. That's kind of the think of that as the capital of this this triad. And this is the pagans, the rituals, the black magic, right? And the next group is the Babylonians. And Babylon, they were the polytheists, right? And that's where the first polytheist gods came out of, was Babylonia. The oldest gods is out of there. They're basically, Babylonia is kind of like where across the water, right? If you go across the Nile estuary, like that area there, with the desert and all that, that's Babylonia there. And the third kingdom, the youngest sister, right, is Egypt. And she is, the old pharaohs had the first god, right? She's a monotheist. And you have to base their names in research. So everything has to be based on to actual archaeological stuff. And so that's kind of the scenery. This is the area we're dealing with. So the book of the Do, book of the Un, I'm dyslexic, UnDaoDu. The book of the Un starts, I want you to think of Lord of the Flies, 6-year-olds. It is another eclipse. This is a solar eclipse. And around is all these rituals. And back then, understand, the time frame of this is everyone is nomadic. Everyone moves. There are no cities. There are kind of camps, outposts, but there's no cities. And there's a reason for that, okay? I'll get into that, why there's no cities. But they move around all the time. We're still very young. This is time frame. This is between about 30,000 years ago, okay? 30 to 15,000 years ago is the time frame this takes place. So we're still nomadic. We didn't have agriculture. That was, we're still picking. We may have kind of had the beginnings of agriculture, like we were starting to seed a little bit of, but we didn't have anything. It was like, oh, let's sow seeds here, they'll grow. So you have a good idea, right, of it. Well, all the tribes, the 3 tribes have been assembled. And the tribes actually need a name. Again, they have to tie in ancient tribes, ancient families, right? The 3 sisters have come together and they hate each other. You have to understand, these 3 sisters hate each other, okay? And the oldest sister is the worst of them all. She is Hecuba. Maybe the names of the three witches in Shakespeare, whatever, right? It could be the, something, right? And, or the 3 muses from back in Greek, right? Or maybe a combination of the witches and the muses, right? Whatever. So they are gathered to determine the prophet. The prophet is going to be chosen. And there's 57 boys, all in front of each one. All these boys were conceived on the Black Night. And the Black Night was basically to take their best, the best women. They all came together. Again, it was 19 women. Each one brought their best 19 women. They brought them to the same place. These boys were conceived in this very same spot, okay? These boys will die in this very same boat, but one. Okay, they're going to determine. And you have to imagine these boys, from the time they were old enough to walk, have been training to fight by the best of their warriors, right? you'll see, like, there'll be flashbacks of them, basically boys. Imagine, Lord of the Flies taking down a grizzly bear. These are how bad these fuckers are, right? They're fucking badasses. And, and maybe, and there was always an adult to make sure that none would, maybe they nearly died. Maybe there is only, I like the idea. In all right, and in hers, there's actually only 11 boys. Okay, or there's not 19. There's only 11. Actually, that's be 19. Never mind. UnDaoDu actually has 19 around them. It has to be 19 because it fits in with something else, right? But maybe other boys, they were, they weren't. I mean, they always lose. So one only had that makes sense. One group, let's say the Babylonian, the polytheists, had like 13, right? And then the Egyptian one, had 17, right? But UnDaoDu's group has all 19, which, most people think, oh, obviously they were very protective and everything else, but that's not the case. As you see in this scene here, UnDaoDu is kind of crouched, right? And in the middle, I want to paint them in the middle of this circle. Okay, there's a circle. The chieftains are there. They're, the tree right next to them is sitting down. In front of them is the sisters, right? The chieftain's high. The chieftain's lord, right? Family around him are the family, and then they're soldiers, and they're all cheering and everything. And you got to imagine these little kids like, like, doing the whole just crazy, and they're trying to psych each other out. In the middle of the circle, okay, is just a mesh of weapons, and they all can put their weapon in there, all right, or the weapons of chosen. And in the middle is the spear, right? There's one spear. They've got knives, they got this, everything else, but in the middle is the javelin, right? When I'm talking about the javelin, it's the hook javelin, right? It's the staff javelin, right? And it's the weapon of UnDaoDu. And UnDaoDu is just one of the boys, but he is the leader of the boys of his group, ones that have suffered nothing. And the reason why they haven't suffered anything, because you have to think of UnDaoDu, he is a savant, right? UnDaoDu is a savant. And when I know what a savant is, he's like a Mozart, a Bach, in fighting, in intelligence, in knowledge, in everything, right? And he has spent 6 years of his life just learning. And you see him there. And unlike all the boys, he's really super focused. His eyes jots over to, and he sums up quick. He's never seen these boys before. And immediately he knows which are his threats. Right? Okay, right? And then he jots over and looks at, like a John Wick, right? You have to think of John Wick here. He's like a 6-year-old John Wick. He looks over to, another group, right? And also, so immediately, okay, he's problem. And he kind of and in mind, he even, it's him and Elijah, the actor who plays with the watch, right? When you think of that guy with the watch, right? He's kind of like a cross between John Wick and him. Probably they're the same thing. And then, and unlike everyone else, he's so calm. Everyone else is screaming, psyching them up. We're gonna kill him. And they're all got blood on them. You just gotta imagine all the rituals, and they're just insane, right? Just insanity going on, right? And all of a sudden they're looking up. And they're waiting, and all of a sudden it gets hushed crowd as the tip of the sun goes down, and it gets really hushed. As they look, everyone looks up, everyone gets quiet. And they know as soon as it's a full eclipse is when the battle starts, okay? And the fight, you realize right then and there they're gonna fight each other. These 6-year-olds are gonna fight each other, right? It's like Lord of the Flies on steroids type shit. And all of a sudden, you know, and you see his feet dig into the ground. He's like watching everyone. That gets very quiet. Everyone is like, you know, some of the kids are still like kind of, you know, like trying to psych out. But you see the leaders, everyone is reading. And then he sprints. And it's kind of like a slow motion as all these kids, the camera above, as all these kids come flying into the middle, grabbing daggers, slashing, I mean, going after people's legs and everything else. And you see UnDaoDu kind of, you know, get cut, and he parries, and he's not letting anyone get that spear. And the other leaders are going for the spear, right? And you see his hand barely grabs onto the spear before another hand is right there. And you see him immediately just whip it up, right? Just basically pulls it, twists it, and just gets the number 2 guy right into the throat. He's dead. And then at the same time as it goes right into his neck, I'm talking about a 6-year-old, right? He pulls it out and he slashes the second guy, right? So he takes out the leaders of the 2 guys, like right off the bat. They're all going for the spear, right? And then he's standing in the middle, and he's alone. He's alone in the middle. His boys are in the back. He's like, guys, he already said, you guys are going to stay in the back. You guys are going to protect each other, right? So all the rest are all trying to support their leader. Completely different tactic. He's like, you're going to stay, right? So they all get in. They're fighting as a unit, kind of like a, you know, think of it like a Roman or Spartan type unit, right? Unlike anyone would ever think. And UnDaoDu is in the middle. And he is just fucking wailing into these kids with this spear. Just like whack, right? Back, you know? And they start cowering. And they got fear. Their leaders are dead, right? See, that's the number one thing. Kill the leaders. He takes out the lieutenants, and they start cowering, and he destroys them all. Before the eclipse is even over, all of the boys are dead, and UnDaoDu is standing there, right? And his boys are behind him. And everyone starts going, UnDaoDu, 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 UnDaoDu. And then you start hearing, death, 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 death. There can only be one. And he shakes his head in defiance. And you see this older sister stand up, and she points at him. And she like starts doing ritual, like you know, you will do as you are told. And you see him bow and coward. I mean, this is, you know, and everything else. And, sorry, it's like it's real to me, like I was there. This sounds stupid. I'm channeling this to you, okay? This is real to me. So all of a sudden, his best friend, his number right guy, he sees him, stands up, right? He walks up, right? And he looks, and UnDaoDu turns to him, and before he could raise his hand, he slits his own throat. No! His best buddy, his Brock Pierce. There's Brock for you, buddy. Brock, that's you. He understands his sacrifice. He understands that that UnDaoDu, they're gonna kill UnDaoDu. They're gonna kill him, right? If he's not going to live up, and it's getting close, you know, the eclipse. And all of a sudden, UnDaoDu just snaps, right? He sees his best friend die. And and everyone just drops their weapons, opens their arms, right, their hands, and he kills his brothers. And he collapses with his head down, tears, you know, and the bodies of his brothers are around him, and he's staring at his best friend, his soulmate, right? And he stands up as an Un. He was enlightened, but in that action he became an Un. Okay, he steps into his role. Lights fade. There you go. For $100 in Ethereum, I want someone to write up this story. Now you can go to cent.co and ultimately, And this is really the opening scene. So everyone can vote on which one is the coolest story. And I'm gonna give a reward of $100 in Ethereum. Now understand, $100 in Ethereum, 5 years from now, is gonna be like $10,000, maybe more, right? $10,000, $20,000, right? A lot of people predict. So you want to own Ethereum. So here's your chance to get Ethereum. So how do you get, you don't want to miss out on this. And this is cool. You want to be able to say, I am the person who wrote this story. I just described it to you, everything else. So you want to get a Coinbase wallet and then, download the, or not download, but then connect to Cent.